Hey guys, today bringing you a brakes and rotors install video. So on my last truck I had these, and I'm decided to upgrade this truck to slotted rotors. They're a little extra braking power for towing and just normal driving in general. Got these off of Amazon, made by Power Stop. So we'll take you through the tools you're going to need for this. So first off, you'll need a few jack stands and a jack. I use an impact gun to get my tires off and take larger bolts out. You're gonna need a socket set. I got my smaller impact, my Milwaukee that I'll use for bolts and stuff as well. Normal hand tools, you'll probably need like a larger mallet or a hammer to get the rotors off, along with just other miscellaneous hand tools that you could have to use. So we're opening this up. First thing on top is you got these boots for the calipers. So you can replace these if your calipers need it. We'll see, we'll assess them when we do it. Then you have your rotors are in here. You're gonna need brake clean. I got 2 cans of this. This stuff's good to get all the grime off. And then when you're putting your brakes back on, you're putting the pads in, you're gonna need some brake grease to lubricate where they slide along the caliper. So we got the box open. They got an installation guide if you need it. 4 rotors, so these are slotted rotors. Let's get to putting these bad boys on. These are the pads. You get your front and your rear pads are a little bigger. So regards to taking the brake assembly apart, so you have, this is your caliper, this is the rotor right here. Rotor basically is held on by the caliper. So on the back of the caliper, see if we can see this, this is like a smaller, I'll tell you what it is when I take it off, but it's a smaller millimeter bolt here. There's 2 of them, one on the top, one on the bottom. That holds on this part here. So that pops out, and then that's when you can access your pads. So if you're just doing pads, that's all you gotta take out is the 2 small ones. If you wanna take off the whole caliper, there's this larger bolt here, which I believe is like, I don't know, I'll have to double check, but there's one here and there's one below as well. That releases the whole caliper. So that brings that off. Remember, it's attached to brake lines, so you want to tie it off. I usually tie it off to my coil or something in here, or in the front, I tie it off to like the control arm, so it just hangs and it's not putting tension on the brake line and possibly breaking it, because then you'd have to bleed your brakes and all that mess. But so we're gonna get this piece off, and then we're gonna work on getting the rotor off, which they can usually be a little stuck, so you gotta hit them with a mallet or a hammer to get them to pop off. It should be a longer one. Gonna get the pads out. What I do is once both those screws are out, just pry under here. This will release the main part of the caliper. There you go. So that's really your main part of your caliper. You want to make sure this donut here, whatever it's called, is not in bad shape and it's pushed in. So those bushings I was talking about that they supplied you with were these. These are in all right shape with the caliper, so I'm not going to bother replacing them. Now we're going to finish removing the caliper bracket. Well, we also got the pads too, so pull these bad boys out. Pop out like that. And that's that bracket right there. So we'll probably also paint this edge here because you see that. So now the fun part, especially if you live in the north and there's salt, is getting this rotor off. You never know. Sometimes it'd be easy, sometimes it's really hard. So basically you just gotta tap. Look at all that rust fall out of these things. Make sure there is a shield behind these, so make sure you don't hit that and bend it up, because then it'll hit the rotor and it'll rub and it makes a lot of noise. You see this right here? So this is basically works as a little lock to help keep the rotor on, so you gotta pry this thing off. Just grab my needle nose, comes right off. So best way I've found is to beat around the studs to get it loosened up, because it's probably really rusted to the hub, and then just come back and beat it from the back side, and you see it's starting to move. Alternating sides. You can get it off. You look at that, all that rust in there. So as you can see, it looks like there's like drum brakes in here, but that's just your parking brake. So don't be alarmed. Now I come in with some brake clean, just clean it up. And now it's time to put on your new rotor. So these are side and front and back specific. So you can see they have a sticker. So rear driver side obviously goes here. Just push it right on. There you go. There you go, guys. That's your rotor. That's back on, and you can slip this little guy back on. We're gonna paint those calipers and then get that back and assembled. So for paint, I picked up this stuff. They do make caliper paint. This stuff is unbelievable paint. I actually use the black a lot to coat the underside of my truck, like the frame and stuff. If I see any surface rust, I hit it with a flap disc on a grinder or a wire brush and then coat it with this stuff. It's just really good to inhibit rust, and it holds up really well. So we're gonna prime it, coat a primer, and then we're gonna do it red. Look at that. All right, well, our parts are dry, so it's time to get ready to install everything back onto the truck. First, we're going to start with the bracket. Now, the brake, they came with these, so we're going to remove these and put the new ones on. These are basically the same thing, top and bottom. Take this off, wiggle this one off. Got these clips back on. So we're going to put this bracket back on, use those two bigger bolts. Give you a little view of that. As you can see, this bolt down here and this bolt right here. Tighten these up. Now we have our new brake pads, which are gonna go contour with the wheel. So you wanna have the shiny side facing out, the shiny side facing out on the other side like this. These will squeeze the rotor. So these go right on this track here. Now when you install these, you see there's these little tabs here. You want to make sure the tab is bent out a little bit so that this can fit inside of the tab. As for brake grease, you can put them right in these notches on the pad itself, also on the tracks. Right on the track. So the rear pad's in as well, same way. Front pad, and now we're ready to put the caliper back on it. Now, key to the calipers, you need to make sure this is fully compressed in, because especially if you had worn down brakes, it's going to be out a little further because the brakes were not as thick. So when you're putting on new thick, brand new pads, it's going to be out. You're going to have to push it in, use like a C-clamp, when they make special clamps to push these back in with. This one's pretty close to compressed anyways, so it doesn't have to go very far. Slide this on. You have to hook the bottom first. You can see here, the bushing is right down here. This is the part that has the threads in it down here. So you're gonna thread this bolt through here, make sure the bushings are pushed this way, and then get it threaded up. So get the top one and the bottom one's just right underneath. That's a fully reassembled brake pads and rotors. All right, so we finished the first rear one. We're gonna clean up shop, go to the other side, do the other rear one. Once we get the two rears on, we can chock those tires, and then we will work on doing both fronts simultaneously. I'm not going to film the other rear one because it's obviously the same, but when I get to the front, if there's any difference, I'm obviously going to show you. All right, guys, so here on the other rear side, I want to show you something. So this caliper is busted, as you can see. Chunks of it fell out just from probably just wear and tear and corrosion. So we're gonna run and get a new caliper, and I'll show you how I throw this on and bleed the brakes real quick, because I don't want to put this back on like that. I went down to my local auto parts store. So they do a refund thing. So you basically, you get a brand new one, and then you swap this one out with that one. You put that one back in the box, and you take it back to them, and you get like basically almost half of the worth of what this was back as a refund. Now to get this off, basically it's just this. Untighten this part will pop out. It'll probably drip a little bit of brake fluid, so have something under it if you're in your driveway or something. So this is a 15 millimeter. There you go. It's not really dripping too bad. Now there's a little gasket washer, so you can see right here. All right, guys, our Caliper paint job is done. So now we're gonna be putting this thing back on. I'm kind of glad this happened so I could have it in this video, because this is something that happens pretty decently if you have vehicles that are older or are around salt. So you want to take out this little cap here. That's where your plug goes. You're gonna have a bolt and 2 washers. One washer goes in the hole and the other one will go in the bolt. This nut has a hollow center and a hole in it, so that's how the brake fluid can get through it. All right, guys, so we got this bled and put back together. So basically, you see this little bleeder valve here. What you're gonna do is you're gonna have someone go in your driver's seat, turn it on. They're gonna pump the brakes, one, to get the caliper to expand. And then what they're gonna do is you're gonna open this valve. You're gonna tell them to push the brake pedal. There should be stuff squirting out. It's gonna be brake fluid with some water bubbles in it. And then you're gonna close it, tell them to let go. Then you're gonna repeat that over and over until you see it come out with no air bubbles in it, and then your brakes are bled. If you do it, and then if your brakes feel light, like you're pushing the pedal to the floor and there's like no resistance, that means they weren't bled completely. You'll have to redo this step. So now we're doing the front simultaneously. You can see we got jack stands on both sides, so careful with that. First, we took off the two smaller bolts. The front, they're actually, let's see, 13 millimeter, and they're shorter. You can see we got those came off of here, and we got our large ones, which should be the same size. So we're gonna check that right now. So on the front ones, you can see the clips are different for these. The clips sit on the pad itself, one top, one bottom. It's a little bigger than the rear brakes. So these rear ones are 21 millimeter as well. When you put these back, you want this clip on the outside. When you compress these fronts, you got to put some across both of them, or one will push in and one will push out. All right, guys, we got some weird New England weather going on right now, but the brakes are done. They're all in. I had to replace 2 of the calipers, but that went pretty well. Got those replaced and bleeded. I hope this was a good instructional video for you if you're thinking about doing this yourself. Feel free to ask any questions you want in the comments. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more do-it-yourself videos like these.